Welcome back to JRG Guitars. Up today is another episode in our PRS style build that is coming together. In our last episode, we had done some stain work on the body, the top, and the back and sides, and it really started to look together with this sort of burst type look with dark around the edges and getting red in the middle of it there and really starting to look nice. We ended the episode by shooting some sanding sealer on there to lock that stain in, and that means now we're ready to join the neck and body together and get this thing one step closer to completion. So let's get after it right now. So we're gonna pull the tape off. So I had the body taped up right here at the neck joint pocket because I wanted to protect that area as I did all the color and stain work on the guitar. I didn't want any finish to get on there. I didn't want any stains or sanding sealer to get on there because I wanted to make sure when I joined the neck and body that it was a really clean coat of paint between there to get that adhesion to be just perfect and beautiful. So here I am now on the neck where I had done the same thing and taped that up to make sure that no sanding sealer or stains or anything got on that as well. So just going through and taking the tape off and getting myself almost there. All right, so here I go. I'm just gonna come in with some 120. I'm looking to rough it up. Really don't want to take much of anything off. I just want it to be rough. Yeah, so that is a trick that I've learned as well, is that you can't trust that there's no factory sealers or anything on there. So I'm just coming in with some very coarse sandpaper, roughing up that neck joint pocket on the body, and then also here on the neck so that I can be ready to apply glue. And that's it. I have to fight the urge to want to go anymore. I want it to be rough. Still a tight fit. Excellent. I have to jump in right here and say that we're gonna divert a little bit from the progress on the video. As I joined the neck and body, I omitted just by complete error something that is very important to do, and that is to check the alignment of the strings and the scale length and everything on the guitar. I don't know what happened, just the excitement of putting things together and going slightly out of order how I've usually done things, which is to join the neck and body first and then stain everything. Since I stained it separately, I guess maybe I just messed up, but it's very important to set the bridge on and set those strings on there. I usually just put a high and a low E string on and make sure that everything is lined up perfectly when I set the neck in. I did not do that this time, and I went back after the fact and checked it and got very lucky that everything was right where it needed to be. So I'm gonna sneak in this edited footage of where I did check that alignment. And as you see in this footage coming up, the neck and body are still joined together, and then we'll bounce back in and show the joining process. But I wanted to at least come in here and tell you that I messed up, but got very lucky. The guitar gods were on my side. So let's jump in and take a look at that footage. So I've got the paper out of there, and I'm going to do just a little cleanup around the edge. There'll be no cracking allowed. So I am going to put those things in there to hold the bridge on, so I'm just cleaning up the edge so as I pound them in, it stays clean. Okay. And now we're just gonna knock these guys in here. And then here goes my bridge. But if I go down the middle, so first things first, just a little bit of for our finish. So just cleaning up that headstock area as well so I don't have any marks or anything on there when I put the high and low E tuning keys on there. And then it's a matter of just stringing up those two outside strings to double check the alignment down the edge of the fretboard. So I've got the bridge locked in here. I've got a high and a low E string on. And then I've lost the nut. So there'll be a new nut that I was going to be putting on anyway that we can see here. The strings are approximately where they would be, and they do run down nicely on the fingerboard. So tragedy averted there. We're in pretty good shape. But this is the mock-up that should have been done before I set the neck in, but we got lucky. We'll just put some glue on the base and the neck. So here I am back now in our timeline, back to where I should have done all this before, but nevertheless, spreading in some of my glue in there and getting it all smeared around with a nice clean, not too heavy layer, both on the body pocket on the body and on the neck. And then here it goes, and we'll see if we can't lock this thing in right in place. You can see I've got some painter's tape there on the edge of the guitar just to make sure that I don't mar up any of the finish. And then coming in with my reach clamp. So had I done this correctly, I would have the high and low E string strung up right now as well. They would go around that clamp and I'd be able to eyeball how straight they are going down towards the bridge just to make sure that it was seated in there correctly. So we clamp it up with a couple of clamps there, and I let it sit overnight just to let that glue set. Of course, wiping off any glue squeeze out before I shut the lights out and let it cure up. And there it is. Locked down. See how it goes. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Well, there it is. Looks clean. Boy, the edges there sure came out nice. Just a little cleanup, a little residue. Of course, I still have sanding to do on the sanding sealer. This is only a little bit of sanding sealer on here, but I do like the aesthetic of the stained body, and then just the raw kind of neck with the dark accented grain on the actual neck. I like it. It's a winner. So here I am now after that has set up and everything, just applying a little bit of black dye to the inside here of the pickup cavities, because I want to make sure that when the pickups are mounted in there, anything you can see through there, it just picks up on dark wood and not anything light in there. Really, that's something I probably should have done from the beginning, but just coating the edges there to make it look nice, and then coming around on the F-hole and really cleaning that up and applying with a Q-tip some black dye, taking very good care to keep that as a nice sharp angle and keep everything dark and free of any sort of debris or discolorations. And now coming through with sanding sealer just to lock that stain in both on the pickup cavities and the F-hole areas. Also a little bit of sanding sealer around where it joined in. And now I'm going to draw my attention here to the headstock, which of course I had stained the front and back of the body but hadn't touched the headstock yet. So now I will mimic my similar burst design, if you will, on the headstock that I had done on the body. So just cleaning up the edges with a little bit of sandpaper and getting it all nice and clean, and then putting some paper towel down in the tuning peg holes so I don't get any of my dyes and my grain filler that will inevitably be put on here down in there. Just trying to keep things as clean as possible. So continuing with the same, we'll have red in the middle, and it'll sort of branch out to darkness around the edges, tying in some of those blues along with the really dark blacks. Once I let that set up for a pretty good long time, I come here with some sandpaper and just sand it back to then lighten it up just a bit. It gives me a chance to see kind of where I am and where I need to apply more stain and more dye. So I'm coming through here with some red in the middle and just darkening that up, and then coming in with very dark stain around the edges. Of course, there's that blue undertone underneath it, and then as this black goes on top of it, sort of pulls out those blues and purples as it blends into red. Now that I have that on there, I'm just going to come through with a little bit of grain filler that I am going to dye with black dye, so it'll be super dark and accented. And I mix that up here just with a popsicle stick, and then we'll spread a super clean, thin layer on here just to sort of fill in those low spots. And then when I come back and sand, I'll be left with just the nice flat top portions that will have the tinting, and then down in those darker crevices will be the black from the grain filler. So coming through here with a little bit of steel wool just to lighten that up a bit, and you can see it did, and then back through with a little bit more stain. I found it important to sand back, and you think, oh no, I've sanded too much away, but it's a nice slow process that really gets the color that you're after. If you apply too much at the beginning, now you're sanding way back. And then I go out to Mother Nature's spray booth, put some sanding sealer on there to lock that baby in. And of course, now that it all is locked in both on the body from before and the headstock, it's time to come through with some wet sanding just to try and knock it down, get some of those high spots and little debris that got trapped in the finish, and the orange peel effect that we have there, just try to knock that down. So coming through here with some higher grit or coarser, I should say, sandpaper, and then I will progressively go to more fine sandpaper to really get it nice and flat, so when I buff this up, it'll shine up just to perfection. So doing the top and the headstock, and now flipping the guitar over here and doing the back of the guitar, trying to go in a bit of a pattern so I don't miss anything. And then it's going to be time to apply some finishing stuff. So I want to protect the fretboard, so taping off the fretboard and making sure that I tuck it in the frets so it'll go right up to the edge, and I can apply any finish that I want to apply. So first, coming through with a little bit of sandpaper, because all I had was sanding sealer on this neck, and just knocking down some of that. I do want to have a really sweet finish on that neck. Not sure if I will just poly it or even go with some sort of a true oil finish or something. And now coming through after the wet sand, just a little more dry sanding with a very fine grit sandpaper. You can see all white coming up, which tells me it's only poly that I'm taking off. If I start to see color, I know I have definitely gone too far. Well, there we have it. A lot of work being done in this episode thus far. We joined the neck and body together, and then comes the really tedious work of sanding and trying to get the body looking perfect. There was a lot of back and forth work that I had to accomplish on this to try and make sure the scratches weren't visible, and I want this thing to have a nice high gloss shine when we're done. So it is a lot of work that is done. It's sped up footage. I deleted out a lot of footage because you don't need to see me sanding for hours and hours and hours, which is ultimately what that is all about. Starting with a little coarser sandpaper and working your way up along the way. Each stage of going to a finer sandpaper, in essence, removing the scratches that you put in from the stage prior. So it's a long process of making sure you get it, burning through that sanding sealer, burning through some clear coat from time to time, and then having to step back and put a little bit more on. A lot of back and forth process there. So I want this thing to be just right. So I'd urge you, if you're liking these videos and you're liking the progress so far, to please hit that like button, press the subscribe button, and ring that bell for notifications, and I'll be able to let you know the next time a video is coming out for you to enjoy. So thank you very much for watching here this episode on JRG Guitars. Stay tuned for the next one. We'll catch you down the road.
JRG Guitars.